Melissa Goodstein, and I am the president of the NYACP. And I am thrilled today to have Adam Halper join us for our collaborative chats. Adam is a relatively new member of our collaborative organization, and Adam is a mediator, an arbitrator, an attorney who practices in Westchester County. Welcome, Adam. So glad that you're able to join us today.
Melissa, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So Adam, can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up? Tell us a little bit about your family.
Oh, sure. I'm a New York boy. I grew up in Scarsdale, specifically in Edgemont. I did all of my college and graduate school in New York City. I went to NYU and Cardozo, and I was in the city for a very long time before moving back to Westchester about 6 years ago.
Wow.
I am, well, was the youngest for a long time. I have an older brother who's 5 years older and a sister who's 15 years my junior. So she kind of came along a little bit later, but we're all very, very close. My parents, thankfully, are still alive, and
Oh,
they.
wow.
My father's in assisted living, but my mother lives in the exact same house that all of
Oh,
us
wow.
grew up in, and I'm about 10 minutes away from her.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Isn't it so great to have family close by? And it's just like a wonderful support to have. And that's great. And you're a fellow Cardozo graduate, huh? I went to Cardozo as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. So, what piqued your interest in collaborative divorce or alternative dispute resolution? Like, how did you get interested in a career in this area?
I think it's because I, like many attorneys, I had a lot and have seen a lot of cases where, regardless of the merits, I think everybody, but certainly myself, really thought that there were cases that shouldn't have been in court.
Mhm.
There were a lot of personal issues that were coming up. There was a lot of historical trauma that
Mhm.
was really, manifesting itself. And my takeaway from it was that the court was really not the best place to process all of what was happening in the conflict, and that it was a lot less about statute and case law and much more about relationships and
Mhm.
about what people wanted to see their lives look like in the future. And that really started my interest in mediation, and I took my first mediation training several years ago, and much more recently has brought me to the collaborative community and to the New York Association of Collaborative Professionals,
So
looking at trying to do things a different way, to be honest.
that's right, right. So is this passion from a particular place? It's just from your wanting to help people and individuals resolve conflict differently. Is there another passion that you bring to your work that has impacted how you approach this?
Oh, sure. I think that, I think for all of us, none of us comes, I think, to this particular work by falling into it. You don't just fall into being a mediator. You don't just fall into being a collaborative attorney or a parenting coordinator. There's something self-selecting about it. People are attracted to this work. I think I guess, for a variety of reasons. I think what attracts me to this work on a personal level, Melissa, is that, and this was often hard to see, I think in my past life, working in court a lot on many, many litigations, was always trying to find the good in people. And I was always trying to see the story from a different perspective and looking at it, looking at the exact same set of facts or law, in a different way. And at the end of the day, I just felt like, people are a lot more than their worst moments. And what I was seeing a lot and what we were trying to do a lot in court was to work with people in their worst moments. And again, this is no shot on court. I think I'm a lawyer. I think court's great for certain conflicts, but not for a lot of the ones that I was seeing day in and day out. And where all people were kind of the sum of their worst moments. And I kind of had, really wanted to look, to in my own way, wanted to look at mediation and then later collaborative law to, try and find a different side of people, try and tap into a different side of what they were looking for, try and tap into a different way for them to view the same conflict. And mediation was certainly one way to do that. And now, more recently for me, collaborative law is another.
And it seems also that family is so important to you in birth order too. You're a middle kid, right? Did I get that right? Are you a middle child?
Later, but yeah, no, I get to blame all my stuff on the fact that I'm a middle child, but that in my 20s notably, but yeah.
Brings a great skill set because I was a middle for a while, but then I became one of six. So, I don't know where that fell for me, but I certainly think that that has helped me enhance my skills in the birth order for sure. So, can you speak to Adam a little bit about what the best relationship, talking about relationships, and what is the best one in your life, and can you speak further as to why?
That's a really hard question to answer. I think I'm fortunate to have a lot of very strong personal family relationships, friend relationships, and colleague relationships that I've developed over the years that are extremely important to me.
Mm.
I think without question, there is someone who kind of rises in her own way above everybody else. And it's my wife. And she is a physician. She's a psychiatrist. Since March of 2020, like a lot of us, she spends a fair amount of time working from home. And honestly, she's a very singular person, in the sense that, not only, are we husband and wife, but, she's really also a business partner. We talk about cases, we talk about patients, never with any level of specificity that would, you know, that would,
Yeah.
bring to mind other issues. But we talk through problems with each other. We talk through difficult case moments, difficult matters in mediation. We talk through personalities and decisions. And I have my own practice. I'm a solo practice. But what I have, in Jen is a lot of things, but she's also, a resource for me, and someone who, this work is very hard, and I'm processing a lot of it with her. And she's
Well,
kind of doing the same thing through me. And both of us kind of represent, have different strengths. And it's really, I don't know, it's really a nice thing to go through life with someone like that. So Jen far and above.
well, that's really special, and that's really important to have that support, that confidant, somebody to come home to it's tough work we do. Every work has its challenges, right? And our work particularly. And segueing from that, I'm just wondering, since work can be stressful, we're really taking in a lot of trauma, a lot of loss, a lot of hurt. And what do you do, to kind of unwind or to kind of relax and create a space where you could, process this and to reset, if you will?
It seems to not be in exactly the right balance that one might hope for. But when the day ends, or even before the day ends, I find myself blowing off a lot of steam. I cook. I'm kind of the cook or the chef in the house. I think the better phrase is I'm the cook in the house, and I cook a great deal for the entire family, not just for myself, obviously, and quite frankly, never for myself, insofar as I can tell. I listen to podcasts. And I listen to, just because I enjoy listening to podcasts and listening to people talk about culture, ideas of the moment. And I do that often while I'm exercising, and I try to exercise whenever I can, not nearly enough. But especially in the last 3 years, I find that being physically active, whether being in the kitchen or playing basketball with my sons or running or whatever it may be, is just mission critical. And I think mission critical for anybody who's doing very client-centered work, and where the day may not end until 11 o'clock or midnight. So all of these things are really helpful towards being able to come to it fresh the next day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I look at it as like kind of a reset, just to come back with a fresh lens, if you will. So you piqued my interest because I'm a big podcast watcher myself. Is there a number one podcast or a favorite of yours that you're listening to right now?
There's a constant rotation going on. There's, when I first got into this, there were many fewer. Now there's like a million podcasts that you can find on, Spotify or, whatever it is that you're listening to. Armchair Experts is a big one, with Dax Shepard and Monica Padman. If you don't know it, it's kind of a long form interview with Dax Shepard. He's an actor. And it's the guests he has on and they have on are just run the gamut. Some of them have been lawyers, some of them have been astrophysicists, some of them are entertainers, and many of them, and often ones that you might find are very surprising, are just incredibly interesting and engaging. Pivot, Rumble Strip, these are just a couple of others. One is a podcast about economics. Rumble Strip is just about life in small town Vermont. And when I think about it now, just in this moment, I think what binds all of these together maybe is not just that it's podcasts about people kind of digging deep into the world of ideas, but really trying to uncover something, really trying to uncover what's going on beneath the surface, whether it be with a personality who you only know through magazines and television shows, or through people who you might not think about all that much, and they contain multitudes. I'm thinking about Rumble Strip when I think about that, and it reminds me in some ways of the work that we do. It's just refreshing. Because of course I'm just a listener, I'm just a consumer of all of this, but it's nice and it's energizing in its own way to kind of drop into their world for just an hour and kind of come back out.
Yeah, I'm a big fan as well. So thanks for those tips. And I listen to also the Moth, Radio Hour, which is an NPR show, but check that out. It's a great one to hear if you're very interested in stories and learning beneath what is really going on. It's just very captivating.
I love the Moth. The Moth. I feel like everybody in the New York Association of Collaborative Professionals should go and do a Moth. I feel like we should.
I just did one in Tarrytown, right?
You just did one in Tarrytown?
Yeah.
You absolutely. There's not one of us who doesn't have a story that is not worthy of a Moth episode.
Okay.
I get
all right.
Telling, but I'm going to be listening for it, Melissa. I'll be listening.
Okay. All right. That's an initiative as president. Let's see, it's 2 years. Maybe I can get that going. Love that. And also, I am a cook myself. I'm not a chef, I'm a cook. And I'm wondering, what is your signature? Do you have like a signature dish, or do you have a favorite dish that's like on constant rotation that you can maybe tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, so I cook great. There's a lot of variety, and I think that's because there's a lot of different dietary needs or wants in the house. And I said cook because as recently as yesterday morning, I joked with my sons, like I'm a short order cook. It's like almost I'm taking little, like I'm sticking, the menu orders like in front of me, and I'm like, okay, table 4 needs, needs X. I don't know
cheeseburger.
Right. Exactly. I feel like this was really like one of the many outgrowths of COVID, is that, I've taken on one of the hats I wear as short order cook. But constant rotation is in our house is sheet pan salmon is one of them, definitely. Shakshuka and fried rice, generally with tofu, but it could be fried rice with anything. And it's because I can make them all very, very quickly and with not too many pans or dishes, because I'm also the dishwasher.
Oh, wow.
So I'm also thinking about economy here. Like if it
Right.
requires 15 pots, kind of like, well, maybe that's for another day. But if it requires one sheet pan, I'm kind of more into it because I know who's going to be doing the cleanup work at the end of the night. So
Wow. Okay.
what do you
That's
make?
that's hard. That's hard. But the shashuka recipe, maybe you'd be willing to share that. We're kind of in the want to share we're going to be compiling a cookbook one of these days, and that just sounds like a really great one.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, more than happy to do that. And also I'm happy to entertain recipes from others because I just feel like we're making the same things a lot. I was like, if it's Wednesday, it's shakshuka night. Kind of have to start, changing it up now and again.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. And in terms of just getting back to the work that we do, um, is there a tip in the divorce work that you in the practice that you have? Is there a tip that you think would be really impactful to share that you've learned in your experience in approaching this conflict in this area? Is there a tip for how to approach divorce?
Yeah, I think there's something that, I feel like I say to clients a lot, and whether I'm acting as the mediator, or I'm acting as the reviewing attorney, or I don't even know what other capacity, maybe a parenting coordinator, but you know, maybe very often then, but I'm not sure I say it exactly in these words, which is that you're just a lot more than your worst moments.
Mm,
And I know that all of us have, and just kind of by being human, we all have a bias towards kind of remembering our worst moments or remembering the most negative thing, or and there's something kind of like there's an evolutionary quality to that. Like it's important to figure out like what went wrong and why, whether it be a relationship or something you tried to make or build or a business or whatever it may be, or a crop you were trying to grow. It's just that I don't know how many times, more times than I can possibly remember, people come to me, whether it be in a mediation or as a consulting attorney, and they say, I wasn't always like this. We weren't always like this. This is not our best selves. I assure you. And it's a really nice opportunity for me to remind everyone that um, we all know that. The judge knows that, the attorneys know that, the mediator knows that, the financial expert knows that, the mental health expert knows that. We all know that. And what we're here to do in our roles is to support you. And we know that you're not the just the sum of the worst moments, and that we're just seeing you kind of at a flash in time. And you weren't always like this. Well, I wasn't always like this. Yesterday I was something different. Tomorrow I'll be something different again, and so will you. And you're going to turn a page at some point and there will be a new chapter. And I promise you, insofar as I can, that you're going to like what you see then, maybe a little bit more than what you like what you see now. And it's going to get better. So I
it's
don't
that
know.
hope.
That's my tip for divorcing people, at least maybe a philosophical one as opposed to, a more practical one. But it seems to be the one, honestly, Melissa, that every single person that I deal with in the matrimonial or family arena, that's the one they all kind of vibrate with. That's the one they all understand.
What do you hope to be better? And that hope is a very, to look forward to something, would be, something that gives some, a way of getting out of the pain that you're in right now, of that hopefulness. I definitely appreciate that. That's great advice, Adam. Um,
Thank you, Melissa.
so if you were to speak about your NYCP experience, is there a memorable experience that comes to mind that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think that there are certainly three, and again, I'm a more recent member, but uh, the evening at the common room in Randy Heller's apartment
Oh, yeah.
building, which was a gathering where I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but it may have been the first time that the NYACP group was getting together in person.
That's right.
Uh,
It was, Adam. It
what
was.
had been a long time.
Yeah.
And it was also my very first meeting of many, many people at the NYACP. So I'm coming in as, as I'm riding up the elevator, I'm a complete stranger. This will be, a fascinating experience. What could go wrong? Well, nothing really did. And in fact, just the opposite. I felt like I walked in there and it was like I knew everyone already and everyone knew me already. And, I think that's because, what I walked into was a group of like-minded people, every one of us different in our own, in an infinite number of ways, but a group that's interested in the world of ideas, a group that's really interested in helping people in different ways and being attorneys or mediators, whatever, in financial professionals and assisting clients in different ways towards, resolution. And also, I have to be honest with you, a surprisingly, or maybe I shouldn't have been so surprised, a wildly funny group.
Funny?
Funny,
Funny.
as in
Oh.
humorous. As in, there were so many punchlines dropped at one point. On the subway ride back to Grand Central, I remember thinking to myself, I wish I could have written some of them down. But what I always think to myself is, humor, just signals intelligence in some ways. So a super bright, super thoughtful group, and that experience stands out. I mean, I've been to other classes that NYACP has done in person, in fact, one quite recently. But that experience and just that evening, which was a really nice evening, and also kind of felt maybe especially sweet for the people in the room because it had been so long since people
Right.
had gotten together in person. I think just for someone who's coming in new, just felt like it's just always nice to know when you walk into a room that you walked into the right place. All of us have had the opposite experience at various times, or have felt more awkward. That was a night that was exactly different, and
Wow. I'm glad for
I'm
that.
glad I stayed.
Glad. And an idea, stand up NYACP. We can have a stand-up comedy act
I
going.
can't believe that hasn't happened already. I
Okay, Adam, you're on it. I'm assigning you that committee.
think that's what the
So
CLE classes are. I thought the CLE classes are just stand up and today.
humor helps with everything, right? If you can't, that's so important. So finally, Adam, as we close out, is there a hope that you have where you're going to be in 10 years, or where you hope collaborative practice to be in 10 years? Do you want to share that with us?
Sure. I think that, number one, Melissa, I hope that, I'm still doing this work, and I really think I will be doing this work in 10 years. I've made a lot of very deliberate decisions to do this work, including going out on my own, mediating, doing collaborative law, doing parenting coordination. I hope I'm doing that and doing that more deeply in the next 10 years. I also hope, because I had a chance of it this semester, that I'm in a position where I can work with young people in and around this work. I came to this work very late, I think in large part because I didn't know anything about it. And no one ever talked to me about it. And it was, and I never explored it. And, it's occurred to me because I had a chance to mentor students in a mediation clinic this semester, excuse me, that it's great if we could get more young people and different backgrounds into the CLE, into Randy Heller's living room, like whatever it may
Yeah,
be.
I hear
I
you.
think
Yeah.
I think that would be a great thing. I'd love to be more engaged in that. And last but not least, I'd love to just be able, to carry the message forward. I've been a part, and I'm still a part of the mediation community, and now there's presumptive ADR in New York, and that's the work of many, many, many other people besides me, but I was certainly one of the people who, wrote a line in that chapter. And, in 10 years, I'd like to be doing the exact same thing or saying the exact same thing about collaborative law. Now it's just presumptive collaborative law. Maybe it does work out, maybe it doesn't work out, but at the end of the day, we're going to try and problem solve this with a team rather than, filing a complaint, in the first instance. Sometimes we all know that's absolutely necessary, but maybe trying out alternative processes before we run into litigation is the better considered approach, and may also help with what we talked about earlier with the issue of people are more than the sum of their worst moments. I'm just wondering if we tried, we kind of brought this out, or rather we carried this message forward to a larger community, whether it be matrimonial or otherwise, if people wouldn't, and clients wouldn't largely be feeling a little bit differently about that. So that's where I hope I am in 10 years. And, I hope we're chatting in 10 years.
I hope so too, and not have it be alternative, right? As a first resort, dispute resolution as a primary mode of dispute resolution. Well, Adam, this has been wonderful. It's wonderful learning more about you and connecting with you. And I know we had the opportunity to connect at Randy Heller's, and I really appreciate getting to know you further, and for our members and the public to learn a little bit more about you. And I know that you have a great website, because the address is like the ADR. What is your website address? It's a really good one, right?
Thank you. It is www.NewYork spelled out adr.com, and thank you so much for the compliment. I arrived at it only after about 25 tries of everything else, and that was the last one. That was the last. That's it. That's what it is.
It's a great one.
NewYorkADR.com.
Well, it's a great one and a great place to find you. And again, Adam, thank you so much for your time and for sharing all that you did today with us. Thank you.
Melissa, thank you so much for this opportunity, and anytime.